Hello and welcome back to yet another session on some useful functions that we promise that we'll see in the upcoming session. So in this one, I'll be talking about 5 such functions that I believe we'll be using extensively in the upcoming lectures as well. And you as developers will be acquiring some knowledge of these functions because these are at the very core of whatever logic we write in our projects. So let's see what they are. Okay, so in this one, we'll be seeing some important functions that you might have heard of and that we will be using extensively throughout the upcoming lectures. And you will always find yourself in need in at least these top 3 ones of them, like very frequently as a developer. So inside this sandbox, this is a very plain one. We don't have many much files inside this index.html, which is like the normal one. In styles.css, there's something which is of no need. Okay, I forked it because let's just remove it. We don't need them. So styles.css is now empty, and we have this one. Just we have this info.js with us, which is the array that we had initially in the previous sessions. And in the main working area of ours, we have this one array called A, which consists of these elements. So let's discuss all of these functions one by one. The number one that we can see is map, and this is the same one that we saw in the previous session. So the definition of this function says that it creates a new array by performing some operation with each item in the array. So now in an array is okay because the array that we're using is still unknown to us up till this point, right? Okay, so what do we mean by this is just like we saw previously, it will create a new array. Let's say we write a.map and we have some function right here. Let's say we write a function half, okay, and then we declare this function like this, function half, and let's do it like this, and we have an input x inside this half function, and what it is doing is it is returning x divided by 2. So we know that this creates a new array. So let's save that new array inside a constant. Const new a equals to this, and then we can simply console log this new a like this, and let's see what we are getting is this. So you can see what is basically happening is this particular operation of dividing the element x by 2, this particular operation is being applied to each element inside this array. So as we saw previously, the map function, what it does is it iterates through this data structure, the array we have in our case, and for each element it will call this particular function by passing that element as the value here. So for the first case it will pass 4 here, and 4 by 2 will be 2, then 66 by 2 33, then 2 1 48 24, and 8 4. So this is what basically map function does. It is sort of a loop that you have. Now you can see that by the usage of this we have very few lines of code that we need to write, but if you want to decrease it further, what you can do is you can take this function, let's comment it out, and simply paste it like this. And now since we have this function inside this map, you can remove its name, so it will be an anonymous function, and still you can see the value is being displayed here. So in this way, and it can be the number of like the amount of code that you are looking right here, it can be further reduced by the usage of an arrow function, which we'll discuss in the upcoming lessons. So this way you can see only these basically 2 lines of code are achieving what we were doing initially. So in order to avoid confusion, if you want, you can have this function separately also. Let's comment this out. So the next function that we can see is filter. So what it says is it will create a new array by keeping the items that meet a specific condition. Alright. So as the name suggests, it is going to filter stuff from the array that we are going to provide it, and based on some particular criteria or some condition, we are going to extract only those elements, only those let's say values that satisfy that particular condition. So let's see what do we mean by that. So again, let's create a new array, and then we will apply this filter method, and inside this filter method of ours, we will provide a function. So let's say we call our function cmp. Okay, now I'm not going to write that anonymous function like this, because it might be confusing to some of you, and it might also, okay, why am I seeing all of this? Yeah, like this, we have this compare function in which we are passing x right here, and what we want is we only want those let's say values that are greater than 10. So now if you try to log this new a like this, you can see we are only getting 2 values. So initially we had all of these, and then we applied a function. We said, okay, apply this filter method to our initial array a, and according to this particular function, you can cut this and paste it here like this, making this an anonymous function, but in order for clarity's sake, I'm keeping it separate. So according to the condition met in this particular function, which says that the x or whatever value we are passing should be greater than 10, only those values will be stored inside our new array. So out of all these elements right here, only 66 and 48 are greater than this value that we have. And let's say if we change it to less than 10, now we can see we are getting hold of the other 3 values. So that is filter function or filter method for you. Let us comment this out. Moving on, the next thing that we have is reduce. Okay, now what reduce is saying is it will accumulate a value by doing something to each item in an array. So this creates some confusion initially, but it's not something like that. So what it is saying it is it will accumulate a value. All right, so let's do one thing. We apply this function to our array, and then we have a function. Now I'm writing the entire function right here only. All right, so we have one accumulator like this, and then let's say we have a current number like this. Okay, and then what we are doing is we are saying that return accumulator plus current number like this, and we store this inside our new a, and then we log, okay, we log this new a like this, and if we see inside our console, you can see we are getting 128, which is the sum of all these elements. So what this reduce function is basically doing is it is having one accumulator variable, all right, which is going to have some value initially, and then it is taking a current number. What is this current number? Current number is basically each element, this current number is iterating through this array a, and then it is returning accumulator plus current number. Now you might be thinking that what will be the initial value of this accumulator, and why are we not explicitly mentioning that okay, keep this accumulator's initial value as 0. So in order to avoid all that confusion, what we can do is we can simply just console log the value of our accumulator as well as our current number in order to see what is happening behind the scenes. All right, now if you see, initially the accumulator was 4, which means that if we are passing this function, initially the accumulator stores the first value that we have in our array, and the number that we had is 66. That means the number it started from the second index. So it saved one iteration very smartly by just saving the sum as the first element of the array and then starting to iterate through the second element, rather than initializing accumulator by 0 and then starting the iteration from the first element. It is 66 and 66 plus 4 will be 70. The current number then points to the next element, which will be 2, then 70 plus 2 will be 72, then accumulator will store 72 and current number will be 48, and like this you can see at last we are getting the sum of whatever this 128 right here. Now you can do any operation that you want. Let's say we want to multiply them. So you can see again it is starting with the first number, the current number right here. It is iterating from the second element onwards, and then we multiply them, or you can subtract them, do whatever you want. Now some of you might be thinking that this particular functionality can be achieved by the map function as well. Correct? I think that it can be. So let's say we have a variable called sum and we initialize it with 0, and then we are iterating through our array by the use of this map method, and then in here we have a function which have x. I'm using the anonymous function right here, and it is returning sum. We are saying that sum is equal to sum plus x. Let me just comment this out, and then I am logging this sum onto the console, and you can see we are able to achieve the same functionality using the map method as well, in which we initially had this sum, and we're saying that map over loop through this entire array with here, and then simply like keep passing every element right here, and we'll add that every element inside sum. So this was what we were this was precisely what we were expecting this reduce function to be doing for us, but it will work smartly, and it will avoid one particular iteration. So in this case, if you have to do something like this, you can achieve the same functionality with the map method as well. So you by comparison with this reduce method, you might be able to see that how versatile this map method is. So we've seen what map is, what filter is, what reduce is. The next one is the find function. Now the description of find method says that it will find the first item that matches our condition from an array. So what we mean by this is, let's say I am saying that okay, have a new number equals to a dot find, and what we want to find is we have to have a function here. I am using anonymous function, and the condition that we specify, okay, it will find the first item that matches our condition. Let's say our condition says that whatever number we want should be greater than 10, and then we try to log this new number like this, and you see the first number that we get that is greater than 10 is 66. All right, so this find method, it will basically work as looker for you. It will iterate through the array starting from the first index, and it will return the first element that will match, that will let's say satisfy the condition that you mentioned right here. Let's say if we say the number should be less than 3, so we get 2, because this is not less than 3, this is not less than 3, this is less than 3, and it gives us this. Similarly, what this find index function does is it will find the index of the first item that matches our condition from an array. Alright, so if we simply write, let me just copy this in order to keep it right here. I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to paste it like this, and now I'll say find index. So what it will do is, let me refresh this. 0 no. Okay, the index is also 2 of this 2, so let me just change the condition again, greater than 10, and if we open the console, you can see we are being returned 1. So all of you must already know that the indexing in array is from the 0th position. So the first element will be marked as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first element that is greater than 10 is 66, and it is present at the first index. So we are getting returned first. So these were all the functions that we had, and I hope you are able to understand the usage of each one of them. Let me switch displays now. Okay, so how was it? I hope you were able to understand the usage of these functions that we study. So I don't want you to memorize them. The one thing that you guys can do is head over to GFG or MDN docs and check out the entire definition, the examples that are mentioned along with these, the description of these functions and what they are used for, what are some edge cases in which they might fail, and what are the conditions in which one particular method is suitable over another one. For example, a good point to start is when there might be some condition, what this condition could be, where the usage of reduce function will be much better as compared to the map function, as we saw, because we were able to calculate the sum of the entire array by the usage of both of them, right? So go around, play around with these functions, try to look out for all the possibilities, and always remember, don't just mug up the definition, don't try to remember whatever we saw in here. Just skim through them, just understand, okay, map means this, find means this, reduce means this, and that's it. In the near future, if you get stuck in some particular scenario in which you might be required to apply some of these functions, you will always remember at the back of your head that, okay, I had studied something like map or something that could be applicable here, and then you can simply Google it out. You can search for any forums as well, like Stack Overflow and all. So with that thought, I will end this session right here. I hope you were able to understand the concepts taught and build the muscle memory along with it. That will be all from my side. I'll see you in the next one.